Everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Jacqueline Maddison. Today we have an incredible guest, Stephen Ridley, who is a world-class pianist, composer, singer, and entrepreneur, known for his electrifying performances and fearless approach to life and music. From playing on the streets to performing on the world's biggest stages, Stephen's journey is one of passion, risk-taking, and relentless self-belief. Today we dive into his inspiring story, his music, and the philosophy that fuels his success. Let's welcome Stephen to the show. It's a great hair. I love it.
I just got it. I'm not going to lie, I got it cut today.
Oh, wow.
I woke up looking like a bag of nails, and I thought, okay, let me
Looks good.
let me shape up. Yeah.
So,
if I'm seeing.
I'm so excited to spend some time with you today. Thank you for
Me
being
too,
on the
genuinely.
show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I watched the one that you did with Grant, and I absolutely loved it, and I'm so thrilled to. I feel really, really very grateful to be with you. I love the questions you ask, and you seem to bring out the best in people, and that obviously shows who you are.
Oh, that's sweet. Thanks. I appreciate that, and I hope so. So let's bring out the best in you today.
I'm here for it.
Awesome. So why don't you take us back to the beginning? Like, when did your journey with music start?
Yeah, so well, I come from a little village. There's 40 people in the village I come from. No musicians.
Wow.
Yeah, but my dad loved music. My dad was quite an aggressive guy, very stern, very strict. Except when you played Meatloaf, he became Meatloaf. When he played Elvis, he became Elvis.
Right.
He became this beautiful, beautiful guy. And I would see this power of music, and I was like, wow. And I'd feel it myself. And I was like, whatever that is, I want that in my life. And so I started playing it around 3 years old, stumbling on a neighbor's piano. And then it kind of grew from there. I eventually had lessons. I hated it. I found them difficult and boring and overwhelming, and it convinced me that I was no good at music. So much so that I gave up on it.
Oh.
And then my dad died, and it was really the first time in my life I needed that musical therapy, the spiritual power of music, the healing power of music. And I came back to music this time, not trying to pass exams, not trying to get an A. I just wanted to connect to that higher place that it can take me to. And it did. And then I built a completely new relationship with music, and I've been writing that relationship ever since. And it's changed my life. The more I've leaned into it, the more it's changed my life. It's allowed me to go around the world, meet millions of people, touch millions of lives. It's an amazing thing. It's truly the.
Yeah, I mean, music, I think, was created it serves to heal the soul, and you have connected with it on such a deep emotional and seeming spiritual level that you are sharing that with the world, and it's impacting hearts around the world. So you started playing out on the streets. Correct?
Yeah.
What did that
Yeah.
experience teach you about music and people, the world around us?
I'll tell you, the craziest thing was not just playing in the street. Before I was playing in the street, I was working in the top team of the top investment bank on the planet. And coming from a village, working hard through university, never believing I could be an artist. It was just something I did for my own soul food.
Mm-hmm.
But we had no money. When my dad died, we had no money. And all I could think about was that, I need money, and money will make me happy. And then I got this job in a bank, and totally motivated by money. The only reason anybody works in a bank, right? And I was miserable. And the lesson my father had taught me when he died was that life is a very short thing, and one day doesn't work. One day I'll do this, one day I'll do this, and I saw that I was starting to make the mistake that I'd seen him make, and so I quit that job. And I didn't necessarily plan on the playing piano in the street thing. I had a dream, and I knew it was stupid, and I knew everybody, I was nervous to tell people, but I didn't imagine I would do it for more than a couple of weeks. I needed to feel something, and that was the scariest possible thing I could think of. I was terrifically introverted, and And I loved music so much that the idea of sucking at it was debilitating. And I was walking down the street. I saw a piano in a shop, a little thrift shop on Brick Lane in London. And I just wanted to play the piano. I was in this such a state of shock of having like quit my career, quit my life, and what am I going to do next? And I have no idea. I thought, I want that again. I want that healing power. And I sat down on the piano, and the guy who was in the shop was super grumpy, and he told me, if you want to play that piano, you got to buy it. It was £100, the best £100 I ever spent. I bought it, and then I was like, well, now what do I do? And he helped me drag it into the street in front of the shop, this big piano. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just play it here. And that's how I started playing in the street. And it was the most, it was
That is so cool. But you know
Yeah.
what? You made such a good point, because I feel like a lot of people, like, money is their God, right? And so
Of course.
they go and they're chasing the dollar, but they're sacrificing their dream, their natural God-given talent that really has the power within them to not only heal themselves or transform themselves, but transform and heal the world, change the world, you know? And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm such an advocate of, you have to pursue your dreams. That was placed in your heart for a reason. Even if circumstances around you are seemingly impossible, you got to
Yeah.
go for it. You have to. You're
And you know
created and
this
designed to do it.
100%. And the circumstances are only impossible because you haven't gone in that direction yet. If you look at a kid who's not yet learned to walk, and then they go to try and walk the first time, they look stupid. You're like, you're never going to do this. You should stick to rolling on the floor. You're really good at that.
Yeah.
But and you could come 3 months later and they're still falling on the floor. But that perseverance is why they're walking. And that's within everybody, because we were all that kid. And, you know, I didn't look stupid in the bank because I'd worked years and years and years and years to get there. I might have looked stupid in the beginning when I couldn't read and I couldn't write. But then I worked and worked, and then suddenly I looked real smart. And now I'm playing piano in the street. And the people who worked in the bank used to walk past me, and they were taking pictures and emailing it around the team. Ha, look at this guy. Now he's like a beggar in the streets. This is what happens when you quit the bank.
Right.
And I got ridiculed by like everyone in my life, dropped me. And I felt stupid. I thought maybe I've lost my mind. Maybe I have lost my mind. But I felt alive. I'd never felt alive till then. I was just scared. I was just doing stuff because I was scared. And
it
now I was
felt
doing
right.
something.
It felt
It
right.
it just felt like I had
I
every
see.
emotion every day. I was scared. I got stage fright. I was like joy beyond joy when you're surrounded by 300 people and they're all smiling and clapping. I felt every emotion every day, and I loved it. I thought, I'm alive. I'm living. I'm doing something.
I can sense it from you right now. So, and I love it. Your performances are known for being raw and full of energy. And so, how do you channel such emotion into your music? Is it something conscious or is it natural?
You know, that was from playing in the street. When I started playing, you know, everyone just wants to go get the bus, and they want to go get their sandwich, they want to get their coffee. And I found, like, there's a word, propitiation, which is to like sacrifice yourself for somebody else. And I was like playing piano in a propitiative way, like, please like me, please. And that didn't work. And after a while, I just got rejected so many times, so often, like every 5 minutes I'm getting rejected. And I just stopped caring and started, you reach a certain place of honesty with it. It's like, imagine I wasn't on the piano and I was just saying things, and I'm saying things like, please like me and do this, and I'm trying to be what you want me to be so that you'll like me, and then it doesn't work out, and eventually you go, F this, I'm just going to be myself.
Right.
And like it or don't like it, but fuck it, I might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started doing that, everybody stopped. And the more I did that, the more it seemed to like communicate and resonate. I was like, wow, like the less I try to be something that I think you might want me to be, the more I know. And my whole life, people are, you should be yourself. What does that even mean? Like, who is myself? What does that mean?
Yeah.
But what I realized in the case of music is, it's just, I want to play it, like when I'm playing that, it's an act of service. I want you to have this because I think it's really cool. Now, you might like the song, you might not, but if I really think it's cool and I really love this and I give it to you in this way of like, check this out, it's like so cool, I want to show you this.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be interesting. The music is interesting. The music is the thing that, you know, I don't want to be interesting. I'm interested. And I want you to be interested. And if we're both interested, there's this magic and we can access it. And that's kind of been this, it's always been my attitude. Even if I go on a big stage these days, I'm just there to like, I want to share something cool with you. You got to check this out. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And I've sat in my underwear for like 6 months figuring this out. You got to check this out. Like,
But I also think that's what being fully present and just in the moment is, and being authentically, as you say yourself, but what does that mean? But it means just being present fully, no intentions, no insecurities, none of those things, just being and expressing yourself, and that's
yeah,
powerful. And you express
yeah.
yourself through your music. So
Thank you.
you taught yourself how to play piano, correct? Or had no lessons, nothing. That's amazing. So that's a God-given gift and talent.
I don't know. You know the word talent? It's a Christian word which comes from the medieval times, talentia, which means a gift from God, literally. But before we invented the word talent in ancient Greece, by the age of 11, every child could speak three languages and play three instruments. And they didn't have the word talented. They just had a system of education which obviously worked. And that was lost because when the Holy Roman Empire came and they saw the power of music, they thought, wow, something that powerful must be from God, and we need to reserve it for the most godly. And so they started teaching music in Latin, a language which only people of the church spoke. And then they put all this symbology there so that regular people wouldn't understand it, and you had to go to the church to learn it. And then music was just taught to this very small, high class of society that was this church-going society. And every now and then somebody would just like know how to do it, or they'd persevere and figure it out. And then they were called talented. And so given the backdrop of that history, I don't know that I feel talented. I feel like I figured it out, but I also feel that anybody can be talented if given the right pathway.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I agree. I think that we all have, I believe we all have natural giftings and talents. And yes, I'm a Christian, so of course I'm familiar with the Lord's teachings on talents, and that we're given them for a reason. And that if we suppress them or neglect them, then we may fail to fulfill our life purpose. The reason
yeah,
we were put on this earth to
yeah,
impact the world around us.
yeah,
And what's interesting is in heaven, we all have our giftings and talents, and we share them freely, not for compensation. So I think if we shift our paradigm to acknowledging our own unique gifts and talents and sharing them, like you say, almost like a gift with everyone, and you just want to share and give in service and in love, of course, then that's when we're going to have the most impact, the most power, to transform and change the world around us for the better. I mean, isn't that ultimately what we should all want?
yeah. And I think any craft at its highest level becomes an art. and
Mm,
uh, and a world where everybody is contributing their art is a very beautiful world. That's an aesthetic world, and I think
mm,
the only reason a world is ugly is because people have been convinced when they have all this ability, they have all this magic, but
yeah.
instead they're like stamping a ticket in a bus station, or they're
Yes.
doing something, and they know in their core that they've got this ability, this magic, this talent, whatever it may be, and but it's not been used. And then that talent becomes toxic. It eats at you. You feel it. It's like it's a cancerous thing to walk
Right.
around knowing that you're capable of something, and you are capable of this grand act of service to humanity. You do
Yes.
have more to give. You do have more value to contribute.
Mhm.
And I know that feeling. I spent 20 years feeling that way. I spent living in a village feeling like, man, I know I can do something. This isn't it. And I'm working
Mhm.
in Starbucks, and then I'm working in a wine bar, then I'm working in a chicken shop, and I was cleaning in a gym. And I'm like, it's not that there's anything wrong with cleaning. It's just like, I know I can contribute
Yeah.
more, and I don't know
Mhm.
what that is. And it was right under my nose the whole time. But that can be a beautiful conversation. That can be, it can be. Just earlier, I picked up a coffee, and it's just the most lovely, like, this person just loves what they're doing. And the coffee's with love, and they're there and they're like chatting to everybody. And I would just watch all these like miserable Londoners walk into the coffee shop, and then they just like became kids. Hey man, how's
Aw,
it going?
you
And I was
see,
like, yeah,
exactly.
I was like,
Like,
wow, you're touching hundreds of people a day like that. You're just brightening up hundreds of people.
there
And
we go.
you could do the same action and not do that. And you're pouring that magic into what you do.
Right.
It's I love people like that. Yeah.
It's true. And you do that with your music. You play multiple instruments and you sing, which I sing. I love to sing.
Oh
But
yeah.
so do you have a favorite instrument that you like to play, or is it all about the piano for you?
I mean, the reason I love the piano is because you don't need any other instrument. If I play like a bass, I kind of need some other instruments to make it sound full and finished.
Mhm.
The piano is just one instrument where you have rhythm, you have harmony, you have melody. You can do the whole thing by itself. And if you sing with the piano, it's like, man, I've got the whole song. And
Yeah.
so if an instrument is a tool for self-expression, that just allows the maximum amount of self-expression to me.
Yeah.
Um, Close second, I suppose, is a guitar. But so yeah, I love piano, and honestly, it's the one I'm the best at because I spent the most time on it. So um, that's my penchant. But I also like the bass. Bass is sexy. So
I love the piano. I swear, every time I hear piano, I feel like God Himself is like playing it because it just, for me, it moves me on the deepest level, like spiritually.
I
It's
heard
just the
there
most,
was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the
please the
Lord.
Lord. I love it. Yes. Actually, I
It,
just listened to you sing that. My dad plays and sings that all the time.
oh,
It's one of our favorites. So,
amazing.
yeah. So, what has been the most memorable performance of your career so far?
It was in Uzbekistan. Um, I played. I didn't even know where Uzbekistan was on a map. Um,
I know,
and
right?
I have Googled it now, so I can tell you. But it's a very landlocked country near Russia in the Middle East, and
Okay.
I don't know anything about it. But I had this ominous email of like, hey, we want you to come here and play in a venue. The venue's like 1,500 people. We'll pay you for a full venue in advance, and then we'll promote the tickets. And I was like, wow, that doesn't normally happen. Normally, like you have to sell the tickets and then you get paid afterwards. I was like, that's kind of weird. I don't think anyone's going to come in Uzbekistan because I don't know them, and
Where is it?
they definitely don't know me. And I was like, okay. And I said yes, and always love a good experience. Even if it went wrong, it's going to be a great story.
Yeah.
And so I go over there, and like normally for a show, they want all this promotional material, and you need to do photo shoots, and then you need to go and do, and they hadn't asked for any of that. And it's like, well, coming up the week before, the day before, I'm now getting on the flight. Guys, are you sure? They're like, are you really sure the concert? And then I show up and I'm like, what the hell is this? Is going to go so wrong. I think these guys are expecting that somehow everybody's going to come, but I don't think anybody knows me here. This is going to be so bad. And arrive at the airport and said, oh, the Minister of Culture wants to meet you for breakfast. And I was like, what? Why? What? And okay, it wasn't really optional. So I was like, okay. I show up for breakfast and this guy's like so nice to me. It's making me feel bad. I'm like, God, no one's going to come to this show. This is so embarrassing. And he's like, the last time I sat here with a foreign musician, it was Sting in 2009. I'm like, bro, I am not Sting. This is going to go so horribly wrong.
But
What are you
I think
expecting?
you underestimate your impact, but go on.
No, I'm like, there's no way. Like, we've done no promotion. Nobody knows who I am.
It's funny.
And he said, look, we've sold out the first show. And I'm thinking, what?
How?
Yeah, and he's like, would you do two back to back on the same day? We'll pay you 100% in advance. This is the day of the show. I'm like, I mean, it's your money, but I don't think anyone's gonna like. All right.
Wow.
And he said, okay, we have this breakfast. At the end of the breakfast, this guy comes up, whispers in his ear, "I'm shalom, I'm shalom." Yeah, okay. The second concert's sold out. Would you like to do a third concert? I was like, what? I'm thinking,
Whoa.
are they like pulling people from the prisons? Like, how they do? Like, what's going on? And I was like, well, I can't do three in a row. It'll kill my voice. But why don't we, if you're for real, like, why don't we just put the stage in the front of the venue and everyone bought a ticket can stand in the front and everyone else can come in the back? He said, yeah, all right. So he then changed the venue to be in front of the president's house in this humongous square, like
Wow.
humongous, like
Was
think
it?
Washington, like
Oh
this,
my word.
like
Uh-huh.
let's inaugurate. It's like this kind of thing, right? So I show up and this stage is like 600 feet long and just a piano in the middle of it. And I'm like, that's so intimidating. And I'm looking, I'm like, if everybody showed up in single file along there'd be like no people. There's no depth. Like, this is crazy. What am I ever going to do? And then I do the sound check. It's like an hour and a half before stage time. There's not a soul there. This is the emptiest square I've ever seen. I'm like, normally for a show, people start getting there like a bit before. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like, this is so going to go. I'm gonna play to nobody. I'm going to go play to the biggest.
Oh, shame. You were really thinking that. Poor thing.
100%.
Oh my goodness.
I go backstage, I'm getting my clothes on. I'm like, man, this is going to be a funny story one day. Like the time I came and played for nothing and then somehow got put. I'm like 5 minutes to go out, and the local media comes, knocks on the door. Hey, do you want an interview? I'm like, okay. How do you feel? And I'm like, honestly, like, you know, I'm really, you know, it's going to be an experience. And they were like, have you looked outside? And I was like, no. And then they take me round to this little hole at the top of the building, and I looked out, and as far as I could see, in every direction was people. It was like the Pope was coming.
Wow. Wow.
I Tens of thousands of people, and I was like, "What the heck is going on? How? How in the world?" And then I come out from this interview, and then there's just a wall of cameras, like in the movie Love Actually,
Yeah.
and it's like
I love that movie.
yeah, it's all flashing in my face. I'm like, all right, and then I'm standing there about this conversation, and suddenly I'm like, I'm really nervous. What? It's all these people and me. Like,
Yeah.
there's no dancers, there's no smoke machine,
Oh my
there's no.
goodness.
What am I going to do? And I hadn't really thought, because I was so expecting to fail. I didn't really put any thought into it. And
Wow.
then still with no plan, I just ran onto the stage. And I was supposed to play for an hour and a quarter. Um, I was so in this zone that after 7 hours, a guy came on the stage and he was like, "Look, it's been 7 hours, but everybody had stayed, nobody's moved." And I was like, "All right, one final song." And I was like, "Okay, so what song do you want, guys?" And then it's just a sea of white noise. I was like, "Hallelujah." Okay.
Yes.
And
Oh,
then
I love that. See, it's a universal, and it is like a
well,
worship song. But go on, go on.
here's the amazing bit. You asked for the best moment of my musical life, and it's this moment. I sat at the piano, and as soon as I sat down, I was like, "Wait, I don't know how to play this song. Like, I totally forgot the chords." Okay, and I just started singing it a cappella, and then I went and stood on top of this speaker, and I'm singing it. I heard there was a secret chord. You don't really care for music, do you? Goes like this. And then we come to the punchline, the hallelujah. And so I'm standing there and I go, hallelujah. And I felt the earth sink. It was like, hallelujah. Like thousands and thousands of people saying this divine word.
Yes.
And I do this performance. It felt truly magical. Goosebumps, goosebumps. I come off the stage. I'm like, that's the coolest moment of my life. Then I get a knock on the door that the family of the president is outside and they want to meet you. And I'm like, okay. I walk outside, and the lady, she was the daughter of the president, comes up to me. She's like, I never thought I would see what happened today. And I'm thinking, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think. And she's like, no, never did I think I would see tens of thousands of Muslims singing hallelujah in this country.
Wow,
And I was like,
wow.
oh,
You
wait, I didn't even think about that.
see?
I didn't even think about it. It never occurred to me. And the images of that show that played on the news were hundreds of women in hijabs singing hallelujah, crying. And I was like, wow, and I've got those images in my house. I printed them. I was like, that's music. That's
Yes.
music. That's the best that music can be right there. It's just, it conquers all. It just is the universal healer. And it's bigger than anything. It's bigger than any division that we put on ourselves. It's so close to divinity itself. Music itself is such a gift from God when you're doing it right, that's the coolest moment of my life, where I was like, wow, like, and
Well,
I didn't even know.
that's so profound. Actually, God's word says that he inhabits the praises of his people. So literally, when we are worshiping, and hallelujah is praising God, his spirit, his presence comes and invades that place, that space, the
There you go.
atmosphere. That's why it's healing. That's why it's so moving and powerful. And,
Wow.
no matter what our gift and talent is, whether it's singing, whether it's baking cakes or whatever, writing, when we do it for the glory of God, that's when it has the most impact, the most powerful change in the world for the better.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah,
you
pleasure.
have a fearless approach to life and music. Where does that mindset come from?
Um, I held my father when he died. He died very suddenly. We were supposed to go on holiday, um, August 24th, 2004. And 10:04 in the morning. I
Wow.
remember every single aspect of it.
Oh my
I know what
gosh.
T-shirt I was wearing. And I watched the color of his eyes change as he died. and it took him 3 minutes to die. I was doing everything I could to save him, and he taught me the most powerful lesson. And irrespective of I'm sure a lot of people watching this have their own opinions of what happens next, but irrespective of what happens next, this life is a gift. And I mean, my dad was my hero. I have so much admiration for this man. And but to see a guy who is that great just go, and then the house is quiet. He was such a loud guy, and the house is just quiet, and it's not going to get loud again unless I start making a noise. And I never made a noise because he was a loud one. I was a shy kid, and it left such a vacuum that took me a long time to understand. I just couldn't. It was so fast. He's there, he's not there, and I know that I'm the next generation, and I know that's coming, and I don't mean that in a morose way. It's just. It's so put into perspective, my own fears. Nothing seemed to be fearful after that. It just doesn't have the significance that I was giving it, because one day, if I'm lucky enough to have a son, he's going to be doing that with me. And that day is not that far away. And as you live and you see how fast life passes, I'm like, wow, like that's not that far. And I have a shot to do something here. And I don't think I'm the most anything. I'm not the most good looking. I'm not the most this. I'm not the most, but who cares? Like, I have a shot to contribute. I have a shot to be of service. I have a shot to be valuable. I have a shot to just put out a little ripple into this world, to leave a little beautiful stain where I once was. Yeah. And I want to do that. And I've been scared my whole life up until that point. I was nervous at school. I never wanted to go up to the girl. I was too scared to like go up to the cool kids. Yeah. So I was like this nerdy kid that got bullied. I'd spent my whole life so scared and so introverted and so like nervous to do anything. And it just all shed, because I just saw, like, I was like, I'm failing by default, and I don't have time to fail. I'm wasting something that was given to me. I'm wasting, and that's, if you want to talk in terms of sins, I can't think of a bigger sin than wasting this gift, this life, this opportunity to live, to experience life, to share life, to give the very best of yourself, to find it by giving. Like, I'd not done any of that. I'd read about it in books. I'd studied Hemingway. I used to live vicariously through these great works of art, F. Scott Fitzgerald. I'd listen to music and I'd pretend that I was on the stage, but I was never on the stage. I was pretending to be a person. I was pretending to live a life. And I'd watch my dad do his own harmonic of that, and make sense out of a life that might not have been what he might truly have wanted if he was honest with himself. And I was like, I'm still driven by that. I can't stay in bed too long. As soon as I've been in bed too long, I'm like, nope. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing, but it drives me. And sometimes it drives me in a positive way. Well, it's always a positive way, because it always drives action, and it always drives in integrity. I don't have time for no integrity. I've got to do what I think is right. I've got to live how I think is right. And I can be wrong and change my mind in an hour's time. But if I'm constantly like living in accordance with what I believe is correct, then I'm going to have a life that I believed was correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes we don't always understand why things happen, especially when the people we love the most are taken from us. But that experience seems to have obviously had a profound effect on who you are and who you've become as a man. And I think that was the catalyst to your destiny, ultimately becoming who and what you were designed and created to be in this world, to make the change and the contribution that you were sent here for. And for me, I believe and know that God is good. So even when things happen that cause us suffering and pain, we can trust in his goodness. And one other thing I want to share, there's this woman, her name's Kat Kerr. She's written a book called Revealing Heaven. And she says, in heaven, the palaces, you can go and there's these balconies, and our loved ones can go and look down in the balcony, and it's like a cloud, and they peer through, and they can be as close to us as the ceiling in our bedroom. And so they're always watching over us and always with us. And so, our loved ones may not be with us in the flesh, but they're always with us in the spirit. And that's confirmed in the Bible, where God talks about the great cloud of witnesses. So that's beautiful, and I'm sure he
Well,
would be
that's
proud
lovely.
of who and what you've become, and how powerfully you're sharing your gifts with the world.
Yeah, well, thank you. If he's looking down, it's certainly not boring. At least I'm giving him an exciting show to watch.
Exactly. So beyond being an artist, you're also an entrepreneur. So how do you, and tell me about some of your entrepreneurial endeavors,
Yeah,
and how do you balance that creativity with business?
yeah. I don't much think myself an entrepreneur. I don't think I'm much of a good one, but because an entrepreneur is like a very money motivated. Well, maybe not, but my idea of an entrepreneur is very money motivated. Um, it's not that. I discovered. Look, I achieved a certain kind of success, not anything close to what I hope comes in the future, but I got randomly quite famous in Russia before the war and all that stuff. I'd had like three big number ones, and um, that was something. And then through COVID, I'd started just playing on Instagram every day. Just I needed to play, and I wanted to put beauty into the world. And then Instagram had kind of blown up, and I'd had some videos doing millions of views, some videos doing tens of millions of views. I would do these Instagram lives every day. Like big celebrities were writing to me on my Instagram, and I was like, oh, this is kind of something. But I found that linear success was very unfulfilling. And what I mean by that is like, I had a moment on a stage in Moscow, and I was playing at this incredible place. It was like a dream of mine to play at this place. It's called Dom Musica. It's a beautiful stage, like the most beautiful stage. And I played there, and I looked at everyone in the audience, and I thought, what an imbalance that I get to do this. And it's like it. I just wanted to include people, as I wanted to give more, and
Yeah.
include them a little bit more in the beauty of the create. And every show I'd done since playing piano in the street, since being a kid, every time I play, people come up and they say the same thing of like, oh my God, it's a dream. And I watch you play. When I was a kid, I had lessons, or, you remind me how much I want to play. And, uh, and I'd spent like 15 years saying, someone should really do something about that. Because music education is really hard. Somebody should really fix that. And, and eventually I thought, well, after you've said that enough times, you don't ask who the bell tolls for. It tolls for thee. And I'm like, okay. And I decided that I would try to do something in the field of music education to try and communicate the knowledge which I'd so painfully attained. And I wanted it to be demystified. I wanted to get rid of the unnecessary difficulty that I had on my own journey, because it was very difficult to learn. But then once I got it, it's incredibly simple, like so many subjects. And I was like, well, I wonder if I could teach it just simple, because that complexity is not really needed. It's true, and it's all theoretically true, but you don't really need to know it. Like advanced maths is very true. It can explain the trajectory of the ball when the
Right.
tennis player is hitting the ball, but you don't need to know advanced maths to be Rafael Nadal. You can be the best tennis player in the world without knowing about advanced vectors. So similarly in music, I'm like, there's a bunch of theory which, though true, is utterly unnecessary. There's some theory which is necessary, but so I set out to build this new way of learning piano, and I want it to be fast, fun, and simple. And then when COVID came and I had no shows and I wanted to do something, and I was like, well, maybe this is the moment. I'd had it built for a while. I tested it on a bunch of people. Um, but I was just constantly doing shows and been jet lagged, and like, what do I even do with this now I've made it? Um, and then I teamed up with, a really smart guy who all he does is info products, and he actually came in as a student to start with, and then he was so blown away. He'd wanted to play piano his whole life. He was so blown away. He reached out to me, and he was like, "Look, like this is not okay that this isn't widely available, and if you won't release this, like I'm going to plagiarize." He's joking, but I'm going to steal it if you don't release it. Was basically I think he was definitely joking, but
But
I didn't know
serious.
anything about that. Yeah, yeah. And
So
I didn't
you
know.
had to do it.
Well, I really wanted to, but I was scared. I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about, I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything
And
about
is this
business or,
talking about the Ridley Academy?
yeah. Um,
Awesome.
and then that's that, I initially I had this big Instagram, and I like went on Instagram very nervously one day, and I was like, "Hey, so a lot of you said how much you want to play piano. Who'd like me to be their teacher?" And I'm thinking, I'm not really a teacher. Like I didn't do,
Right.
And then initially I was just looking for kind of guinea pigs, and then a bunch of people nominated themselves to be guinea pigs, and then we took them through it, and I made little changes and refined it, and then we did that a few times, and then eventually, like, I got this thing, and it was just working, 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 working. It's like, okay, I think it's ready, and then um, we started selling it in COVID. Perfect time to learn piano. A lot of people signed up. Like, I think we might have gone to something like 8,000 students very quickly, and I was like, wow. I was imagining like 8,000 people all over the world, and they're playing piano, and they're putting beauty into their lives and all the people around them. I was like, wow, that's like so cool. But then I started really dreaming bigger, and I was
Yeah.
like, now I've kind of seen that, and I've had like songs that have gone boom, and I've had these moments, or like an Instagram reel that goes boom, and I was like, imagine if this goes boom. What does that mean if this goes boom?
Right.
If this goes boom, tens of thousands of people are playing piano for the rest of their life. Tens of thousands of people have the magic that's been the central magic of my life,
Yeah.
the thing which has made my life rich. They would have
Mm.
that,
Yeah.
and no matter if I'm successful or not as an artist, from that point on, I would have done something so much bigger than myself, and that became very exciting. And so we just basically for now 4 years, we'd sell it, we take the money, we pour it into ads. We sell it, we take the money, we pour it into
Right.
ads. Just grow it, grow it,
Welcome
grow
to
it.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I don't. I think that might make me a pretty lousy entrepreneur. I don't know if it does, but it's and then funnily enough, so then it's grown, and now we have all these staff, and most of the staff were students, and they were people. They did the course, and then just like they call up and they're like, "I'm miserable. I'm doing this. Like, can I come and work in the school?" And I'm like, I don't even know what you would do, but sure. Like, what do you want to do? And then people would like volunteer their expertise in different areas, and that's kind of it's a higgledy-piggledy kind of project that's that's
Got
kind
a
of blown
life
up.
of
But
its
now
own.
yeah. Well,
No
it
way.
needs that. Yeah, it's quite something. You've got a gift.
Thank you. I just honestly, I love people, and this is what I'm called to do. So I'm glad to be
That's
doing it.
amazing. Well, you're very good at it. Thank you. I feel like I'm half in therapy, and it's very therapeutic. Honestly, thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. So let me see here. So what's next for you? Like what? And I love how you said dream. Like this is my dream. And like I think that part entrepreneurialism is pursuing a dream and a creative desire that we have, but with against odds. I think that's like myself. I'm an entrepreneur, and I think that but I live by with God, all things are possible, you know. And when you said, oh, I started to dream bigger, and I think that we must all dream big, you know, because even if you start from nothing, anything is possible. You know, look at you. You have grown, and oh, you're just making such an impact in the world, and you're bringing music to the world. That's one of the most amazing gifts you have. You can be given. Like, you know, like I sing.
But
So like I also have dreams in the future to be able to sing and do albums and stuff. Like I have other things I want to do.
hell yeah.
You know? So I love that you're sharing your gift and going for it. And I just want to encourage listeners and others to do the same, you know, because anything is possible. There's no dream that is too big to achieve.
I couldn't agree more. And there's a few things I would say. Right, the meeting I had right before this here in London, I went and met a guy, and he's one of the richest men in the world. He runs one of the biggest hedge funds in the world, and he's one of the biggest charity donors in history. Um, and I find this guy very inspiring. He's an intensely spiritual person. And I went to see him because I have this idea of I want to do something like this guy makes global change. Like when this guy writes a check, like
Right.
millions of people stop being hungry. Like this is a
That's
big,
amazing.
and I was like, wow, like I want to like I just want to contribute more, give more. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a billionaire, but I have whatever skills I've got, and I want to contribute it at the highest level. So I went to see this guy, like, look, how can I help? Like, just use me in any way, but whatever you need. Like if I can play and it can help raise money, if I can like just tell me what you want. And then we got having the most incredible conversation. And just to echo on what you said, and you talk about, you know, you're an entrepreneur, you're a Christian, and you're an artist. And but the reason why, you know, every religion kind of agrees that God ultimately is a force which creates with love. And so when in your own life, you start to create with love, whether that be on a business idea, whether it be a song, but you're in this space of there was nothing a second ago and now there's something because you put it there. That's magic. That's literally like divinity right there. It's like there was nothing and I sit down and now there's something. I am as close as you can get to God. Like if divinity's within, it's those moments when you feel and channel it. That's the magic of music to me. But also in business, on a much more like practical, real, you know, fighting against the odds kind of way, that it's a similar thing. You have a vision, it's a postulate, it's always a crazy idea in the beginning, and then you go out and make it so. And whether you do or don't, you put something there. It might not be what you initially intended, but you're having a go at putting something there that wasn't before. And if you do that with love, then to me it's divine, and you feel it. Your life feels divine. It feels like this. I'm not quite in the rat race anymore. I'm not quite, and you might be successful, you might not. It might be making money, it might be losing money. I've been very rich and very poor a few times in my life, and it's always seemed, as I've been through that cycle a couple of times, it's become a bit inconsequential to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same, and I think we all do. And I think that's one of the major life lessons we have to learn is that money doesn't define you. You know, no matter how much of it you have, it's what you do without it that does. And I think when, like you mentioned, which I love, when we align with our creative aspect of our being, which is made in God's image, right? He created everything he spoke everything into existence, but we have the same creative ability. And when we're operating in that, like, I love how you call it magic, but yes, it is. It's beyond natural. It becomes almost supernatural. And I think that when I get into that flow and that space of creativity and self-expression of my natural gifts and talents, it's powerful. That's when things begin to happen, doors open, because you're moving in alignment with God's will, with your purpose and destiny. And that's when you get momentum and forward motion. You know, because when people are just chasing the dollar and miserable in a job that they absolutely can't stand, they feel stuck because we have to get into this creative flow, this creative divinity that we were designed to operate within and from. That's when we can change the world.
I can give you two examples. I love what you're saying here. I can give you two examples which really illustrate this. I watched this Instagram reel a few days ago, and it was a guy, and there's a little box on the street, and it's like a piece of tape on the street, and there's a guy in a suit, and he goes up to this guy, and he's like, "Hey," and he's like a teenager, and he's like, "Hey, if you stand in that box for the whole day, I'll give you $50. And the guy's like, "Really? Yeah, like hell yeah, okay." And he stands in the thing, and at the end of the day, the guy comes up and he gives him $50, and he goes, "What?" And he's like, "Do you want to do it again tomorrow?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he comes, and then it kind of puts 8 years into the future, and he's still standing in his box, and all his friends come like, "Hey, do you want to go skateboard?" And he's like, "Well, I can't. I've got to be here." And they're like,
wow.
They're like, wait, what? And he's like, "No, like I'm working." And then it cuts forward, and now he's like gray, and he's standing there, and the guy comes back up in the suit, and he's like, "Hey, you've been doing such a good job. It's time for you to get an upgrade." And he takes him, and it's like down a slightly bigger box, and it can see a tree, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's got a view. It's so amazing." Yeah, now you're getting $1,000 a day. And I'm like, that's one. That's the reason I love this is because the thing I learned working in the bank I made a lot of money, like an obscene amount of money. And I come from no money. I come from a village. My mum works for the government, the National Health Service, as a midwife. My dad died. I was raised in a single family home. I went to this fancy school, but on a scholarship. There was a bunch of rich kids, and I was quietly not telling people that I had the scholarship, pretending I was rich. So I always thought the thing that I was missing was money. And when I got into the bank, the whole point of the story that I'm telling you here is that money has a price. And the price of that guy in the box, he's giving up everything. He's giving up his freedom. He's giving up doing the things he wants to do. Now, let's say now that doesn't mean money's bad, but it does mean that giving up everything that you want to do and believe in for money is bad. But let's take the same guy and let's say he goes skateboarding and, he's so inspired by skateboarding. He comes up with an idea for a really cool skate park and he's going to teach people how to skate. And then they're going to make skate competitions and maybe he makes a skate magazine or maybe he makes a skateboard brand but he really goes into that thing. Now he could become, a phenomenally successful company. He could become, now then he'd have money and the money wouldn't be evil. The money would just be something that happened because he exchanged and gave to so many people. And what happens when you give a lot is they exchange and then something comes back. And he probably would feel no which way about the money because it's kind of this inconsequential side effect of his giving. Right. But his life would be about the activity of giving, the activity of doing the thing he wants to do. Yeah. And it has an exchange value with the world. And so because of that, people exchange and so then in comes money. Right. Now, if you took both of those guys, the guy in the box and the guy doing the skateboarding, and let's say at the end of their life, you have the same amount of money, you would have one guy who's miserable and says how much he hates money and money's the root of all evil and blah, blah, blah. And you'd have another guy who might not even think about it. He might not even think about it. He'd just talk about skateboards. And,
right.
That's kind of the
well, I'm with you on that because I don't think about money. I don't worry about money, but all my needs are met and I have an abundance. And this is also part of my faith and walking by faith and living by faith is, God says that I will supply all your needs according to my riches and glory. I mean, his house has roads of gold. So when I'm trusting in God to supply all my needs, I don't need to worry about money. It's incredible. It's incredibly liberating when you shift the paradigm from, I have to make money and I'm worried about money and I have to pay my bills and I got to do, and you go from, now I just want to pursue my passion and I want to do what I love and I want to do what's going to fulfill me and make the world a better place, impact be of service. And actually and what I love about you too is you're so humble, and Jesus teaches us that, humility comes before honor. And it's in this, and God gives grace to the humble. And I feel like when we stay in that place of humility, we can just continue to receive God's grace and his goodness and the favor and the blessing and the growth on our talents. It all comes from him. And so I think we just have to be conscious of that and shift in other words, just don't make money your God, and money comes and goes, but it's a byproduct of pursuing our passion. But again, just for me, trusting God to supply all my needs, but being sure to always be pursuing the dream he put in my heart, because that's his will for us.
What a beautiful way to put that. Always say that again. Always pursuing the dream he put in my heart. That's a lyric.
Yeah,
I should write that.
Because that's his will for us. And honestly, I say that there's free will and there's God's will. Free will is, okay, go get your 9-to-5 job, be miserable because you're worried about paying your bills. Or there's God's will where you're pursuing that dream in your heart. And God's will for us, God's will for you is your dream life. It's everything you've ever wanted.
So powerful.
Isn't it true though? Like things.
Isn't that powerful? Isn't that powerful? God put in my. I mean, I've never heard that before, but that's a very powerful. Like if you're sitting there, because look, I spent the first part of my life. I had my first job when I was 11 years old, and I worked like a lot of jobs that wasn't particularly legal, by the way, but I had to do it at the time, but I had these dreams and I knew I wasn't doing it, but I'm like, but I got petrol to buy and I've got like shoes to buy. And then when my dad died, it was like, we don't have any heating.
Oh, I'm sure it was even worse.
Right. But I had this dream and you really threw me off there. Somebody said, that dream, where do you think it comes from? Like that dream's a gift. That dream is a gift and you not doing anything with that dream. What a waste of a gift. I think it takes me back to exactly, man, you knocked me out of that. You made me.
If all of us pursued that that divine calling in our heart, the dream, the God-given dream, we would have heaven on earth, you know, because that's what we
You
really
said,
truly are designed and created to do is and whatever it
is
is, you
it,
know, somebody might be an amazing baker or drummer. You know, it's across the board. Everybody's gifts and talents are different. But like you said, even the barista at the coffee shop, it's like if you're doing what you're called to do and hey, maybe that is somebody's dream to be a barista. I'm not, you know, defining
sure.
anyone's dream, but to be fully present in that, in your purpose, that's when you're going to affect the change for
I
good.
mean, I used to be a barista, and I've always said this line of like, you know, there's two ways to cook an egg. You can, and I've done both of these. I'm sure you have. I'm sure everybody watching has that. You can wake up in the morning and you didn't quite sleep enough because you stayed up a little bit too late watching something that you now don't even remember and don't care about. And you're standing there, you're kind of tired, and you're like, man, this is not going to be a good day. I've got three meetings. I don't want either of them. And oh my God. And
Yeah.
you're going through it. And you're putting this egg in the pan and you're looking at this egg and it's, oh, I forgot to put the butter in the pan and it's sticking to the pan and my, oh, gee, it's one of these days, right?
Yeah.
Or you wake up and you just, same situation. I'm underslept, the whole thing, yada, yada. And I do this a lot because I'm often very jet lagged. And you take a breath and you go, let me open the window and see what it sounds like out there. There's a bird tweeting. Could be a car, could be anything. Right. Oh, okay. I'm here. Just before I crack the egg, Alexa, play Dean Martin.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
How lucky can one guy be? Suddenly, you feel like you've made it. And it's like, and it's something I learned because when I was doing the barista gig, I used to just control the playlist. But I used to bring my own playlist of like big band jazz. And I just felt like a winner all day. I'm making my coffees. How lucky can one guy be?
Which just shows you the power of music. The power of
Yeah,
music is incredible. So,
yeah, I suppose.
yeah, absolutely. It can change your mood, can change your whole reality in a moment. You put the
You've
right
really
song
knocked me
on.
out with that. You've knocked me out with that thing you said that, you know, your dream comes from God. You make me want to read a Bible again. I tell you, it's been a long time since I read a Bible, and you make me want to pick one up again. It's
Oh, I love the Word of God. I read it. It's the last thing I do every night. I spend time in the Word of God. You know, there's something supernatural about God's Word. It does something to my spirit. I notice that my dreams become far more vivid and powerful, and God gives me guidance. The Word of God is everything. Yes,
amazing.
yes, pick up the Bible, please do. So now, what
Lovely.
advice would you give to independent artists who are trying to make a name for themselves in today's music industry?
Um, Still consider myself one of them. Like I'm still the biggest student I know. I have a music school, but I'm the biggest music student I know. I spend every day learning about music. When people ask, how did you learn piano? I'm still learning piano.
Right.
And the same on an indie artist. Like I'm not even 1% where I want to be. So I don't feel super qualified to take any high road. But I will just to share a successful actions is um, I posted really heavily on social media, and then I stopped for a while. And the reason I stopped is because um, I started to get a lot of crazy people messaging me, showing up at my house, breaking into my studio,
Oh my
and
word, really? Wow.
yeah, yeah, and you know, death threats and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, like uh, that's such the wrong reaction for what I was going for.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share something beautiful. And it's only a tiny, tiny percentage. But if millions of people see something and just 0.1% of millions of people are a bit cuckoo, well, that's a problem. And it made me like, I was like, oh, okay. And that was a mistake. It's a mistake I made that I'm going to correct very much this year. And coming on this interview is the first act of that, honestly. I've not done a lot of talking to people for a minute because I had to really find it in myself. Why do I want to do this? And realign with what was the purpose in the first place? Because I have no interest in being famous.
Right.
I feel that fame is a trap. I think succumbing to the invitation to be interesting sticks you in a cage called me. It's a very
Yeah,
tiny little box called me.
that's
That's not
right.
where freedom is. Freedom is on the other side of your nose, and you have
That's
to.
right.
Um, but I love music, and I sit down and I write these songs, and they, you know, wow, yeah, oh,
Oh, I
really
love
close there,
it.
really close. I write some songs and I feel guilty. I'm like, this is so, whether or not anybody else agrees, but for me, this is so, I love this music. I
Yeah.
don't, I feel I've had a very small hand in the making of it, but this, I love this music and I want to share this music. And then I come to this moment again, and I've only recently come here in the last couple of months because I've been very distracted by building the school, and that's been just the most joyful thing. And I managed to stay kind of a little more behind the curtain doing it. And but I started getting bookings for some really big concerts. I just did a really big show out in Dubai. I love being out on the stage. I love performing for people. I love music, and I love to share it. And to not share it just feels inappropriate and wrong. And so my only advice, and again, I might be wrong. Like, go find someone with way bigger stats than me, and do what they say. But I don't want to do music and feel like a prostitute. I don't want to do music and feel like I'm doing something that isn't what I really want to do just so you click like. What's the point?
Right.
I'm then going to resent those likes. And I've made that mistake. I had one song that was released in Russia, and I hated that song, and it was number one for like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Still, when I was going there 5 years later, it was playing in every McDonald's, in every taxi, and it'd make me cringe. I was like, I hate this song. And uh, and then, ironically, the guy who I made it with completely screwed me over and didn't give me a dollar. And but that's a whole different thing. But I learned a lesson with that. I was like, man, I don't like that work, and it drags in a harmonic of people that acknowledge me wrong. They come up to me, oh yeah, man, I love. And when you say you love that song, it makes me not like you and not like me because I don't like that song. And I made that mistake. Why did I do it? Because I knew that this guy was super popular. I knew if we collaborated, it'd be a big, big hit. And I wanted it so much. I so want that dream.
Wow. That is
I've
so
been,
powerful. You know what this reminds me of? Like when Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days and the devil came and tempted him and said, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world if you just bow down to me. But Jesus rejected that offer. Most people do, like you said in the beginning, most people sacrifice themselves in pursuit of the approval. But
yeah,
when we serve and perform for an audience of one, which is God Himself, and sharing our gift and talent to fulfill our divine destiny and purpose, the devil can't touch us. And a lot of times we experience this resistance or this reproach from the world around us because the devil's trying to stop you from stepping into the fullness of your destiny as a performer, sharing the beautiful gift of healing and music with the world, which was God's intention for you, So
right.
but that's why it's called for me. And I experienced the same thing in stepping forward with courage in pursuit of my destiny and my purpose. That's why it's called a fight of faith, because we do it with this fight in mind that we're not going to be held back. We're not going to be stopped or blocked. We're going to go for it, and we're going to reach the fullness of our potential and the maturation of those gifts and talents, ultimately for God's glory.
You hit the nail on the head. The devil tempting, yeah, it's exactly that. So to circle to the advice that I would leave him with, and it's the one I'm going to try and follow myself, and to be that example. Um, not that I need to be, or that you need to follow, or anyone needs to look at me at all. But
Right.
I want to. The artists I've greatly admired contributed something which I think makes the world a more beautiful place, and I want to contribute with that exact spirit of just. That's why I got into music in the first place. It's why I was playing music in the street. It's
Yes.
been in every show. Every show has always to me felt like this loving, very loving act of connection and service with people. It's always church to me. My shows are church,
Yes.
and and anybody can come, and you don't need to believe in it. I don't mind, but
Right.
you're gonna feel some magic when you come. This is gonna be an experience. We're gonna have an amazing magical moment together. You're gonna create it. I'm gonna create it. We're gonna be there. We're gonna feel it. It's gonna be better for all your contributions and my contributions, and that's music and that's magic. And then I got very distracted by want to be famous, want to be successful, want to make the big money, want to make the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And then it made me resent it a little bit. And then I did the Instagram thing and I loved the Instagram thing. But again, I got a little bit
Yeah.
um, too distracted by, oh, wow, all the likes. Oh, wow, all the thing. And then that was a whole thing. And then
Well, because it can be very seducing. That's
of
why
course it can.
it's
It,
seducing. But it will fail um, to satisfy. It'll fail to
yeah,
satisfy because true
it's
fulfillment
just not the
comes
point.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
not the point. And sorry to be very crass with what I'm about to
I
say,
love it.
but I'm going to say something that's a bit rude. But being a musician and been that um, into yourself is what I call musical masturbation. You're the only one that gets pleasure from it,
Hmm.
and and I don't want that. I want to give, and so I have this weird faith, and let's see if it comes true. I have this weird faith, uh, and it's just a faith in my own knowing what I think is the magic in music. I've been playing music my whole life. I've been playing music since before I have memories, and it's all I know. And so I have to get to a point where I just trust my taste, and I don't care if it gets likes and comments. But I'm just going to put something out with such personal integrity, by which I mean I think this is the best thing I can put out. And I'm going to try my best to come up with all the little viral ways to promote it because I'm going to care about the music. And then I'm going to keep doing that and keep doing that. And it's just going to find the people who agree with it and who like that music. And that's going to be my career from this point on.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and I think too, though, when you align your intention and your heart with knowing that your gift and your dream is from God, right? Let's say you now operate from that place. You are then given a platform, the opportunity to usher heaven into the earth. And when you are aligned with God, walking with God, you will be unstoppable and God Himself will bring the growth. Because with God, all things are possible. And that's what I do. I completely have surrendered my life to Him, and the Lord is just bringing so much growth. And because I'm not really interested in that. I'm more interested in doing what He wants me to do. And when I'm doing that, everything else just comes together perfectly and beautifully in a divine dance, you know.
What do you think he wants you to do?
Exactly what I'm doing. Sitting here speaking with you about how we should be doing what God wants us to do.
Look
You
at
know?
that.
Yeah.
Look at that. What a look at
Right?
that.
Case in point. I love it. So, where can our audience find you, keep up with you, get your music?
You can, the best place is Instagram, which is my name, which I'm sure will be written beneath this video. If you just look at that name, you'll find me on Instagram.
Yes.
Um, and Ridley Academy is just that surname Academy, ridleyacademy.com. And I also just made an Instagram for Ridley Academy, and it's mostly just funny videos that me and a couple of friends just come up with funny stuff and post it in there, and then we put little tips and things. Um,
Perfect.
and uh, and if they want to learn piano, they can hit me up, and I'll open their eyes.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah,
Stephen, thank you so much for
thank
spending
you.
some time with me today. It's been an honor. I was definitely a fan. I tried to use your techniques to learn the piano myself, and I found it to be very simple and easy way to learn. So I'm so glad that you exist and are sharing the tips and insight to learn piano.
Thank you.
Um, well, I want to encourage you to continue to share your gift with the world, and seek God on your journey to align with Him, so that what you continue to create in this world will just echo in eternity.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time and for the. I mean, honestly, I feel like I've had a therapy session. That was amazing. Thank you
Oh,
so
good.
much,
I'm glad.
and yeah, I'm a pleasure to know you. It won't be the last time, I'm
Likewise,
sure.
likewise. Yeah, I'll see you again. God
Yeah.
bless you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. God
Bye,
bless. Bye.
Stephen.